Chapter 1. The Trade. The dusty winds of the barren planet whip through the narrow alleyways of the market district, carrying with them the scent of dried metal and the tang of ancient spices. Aaron Hawke, a rugged traveler who had spent most of his life moving from one dead-end mission to the next, shuffled through the chaos, the sun-drenched streets filled with the noise of haggling traders and desperate buyers. His boots kicked up the dirt, the worn soles making little noise against the cracked ground, his eyes darting from stall to stall, searching for something useful, anything that could make his life a little easier. The crumpled map of the galaxy, filled with disjointed markings of places he'd been and places he'd yet to go, lay in his pocket, but Aaron didn't need it today. Today, he was looking for something simpler. A trade. He had been wandering the planet for hours, the thirst from the oppressive heat gnawing at him. When he saw it, a stall cluttered with rusted tools, worn-out tech, and broken pieces of machines from a dozen forgotten worlds. The owner was a scruffy alien with multiple arms, their skin a dull grayish green, eyes shifting between every potential customer, waiting for the right person to make an offer. Aaron wasn't interested in the gadgets, but he had noticed something that caught his eye, an old canteen, weathered and cracked, but still holding some form of promise. It wasn't much, but it was a reminder of an older, more straightforward life, one where trades were simple, honest, and there was a sense of value in what you possessed. He approached the stall, running a hand through his unkempt hair as he eyed the alien. "Trade," Aaron said, holding up his canteen, eyes narrowing. The alien glanced up, its many arms resting casually on the counter, the tips of its fingers twitching ever so slightly. It didn't say anything for a long moment, but Aaron was used to that. Silence was often a sign of negotiation in this corner of the universe. He didn't mind the quiet, it meant he could think without distraction. The alien's eyes flicked to the canteen, then back to Aaron's face. It leaned forward, its voice rough but clear. "You want trade, yes?" Aaron nodded, feeling the dry weight of his thirst pushing him further into the conversation. "What for?" the alien asked. "A fair trade," Aaron said simply, eyeing the alien's many wares. He didn't care what the alien valued, he just needed something to keep going, something that might help him survive long enough to leave this desolate place. His hand reached into his bag and pulled out the tattered old canteen, holding it out as an offering. The alien regarded the canteen for a moment, then smiled, revealing several rows of teeth. "You have something worth more than your canteen, I think," it said, its fingers lightly tapping on the counter as though thinking about the next words. "I will give you one of my captives for it." Aaron's heart skipped a beat. "Captive?" he asked, not quite believing what he was hearing. The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, a captive. Very valuable. You'll see soon." With a flick of its hand, it gestured toward the far corner of the stall, where a large, covered cage stood in the shadows, hidden beneath a worn tarp. Aaron's curiosity piqued, his mind racing with possibilities. A captive? What kind of deal was this? But then he caught himself. He was on a barren world, alone, and nothing came for free. A captive in exchange for an old, worn canteen? Surely, there was something more to this. The alien seemed to sense Aaron's hesitation, its multiple eyes narrowing in amusement. "She's rare," it said, its voice a low hum. "A specimen from a distant system. The kind you don't find often, a creature of great value to those who know what to do with such things. What you offer here might seem small, but it is enough." Aaron didn't know why, but something in the alien's words tugged at his instincts. It was a good trade. He was thirsty, and a captive, whatever the alien meant by that, could perhaps be useful. He thought back to his ship, grounded somewhere on this planet's far side, too damaged to repair easily. The canteen was of little value in the grand scheme of things. But he wasn't here to make deals with monsters. Aaron's fingers tightened around the handle of the canteen. "What kind of captive?" he asked, voice cautious. The alien's smile widened. "A female of a species known as the Xylothians. A rare and exotic race, highly sought after. Beautiful, powerful, and deadly in equal measure. You'll find her to be an interesting companion, human. A worthy trade for something as simple as this." The hairs on the back of Aaron's neck stood up. He had heard of the Xylothians before, scattered rumors of their incredible abilities, speed, strength, and the incredible agility that made them nearly impossible to capture. But they were also known for their unusual biology, their customs. What do you mean by companion? Aaron's voice was suddenly hoarse. The alien's smile widened, and a strange glint appeared in its multifaceted eyes. She will be your companion? Yes, in the most basic sense. But understand this, she is not just a pet. She's a creature of power, and you dash. The alien paused, studying Aaron closely. You are her prey. Aaron froze, feeling his stomach tighten. Prey? He hadn't expected this. A trade? Yes, but nothing about it had seemed like a death sentence. Yet, the alien's words hung heavy in the air, like a shadow that wouldn't leave. The Xylothians were predators, apex hunters with instincts and senses that far outstripped that of most species. And he, a simple human, was about to be at the mercy of one of them? A moment of doubt flashed across Aaron's mind. He wanted to walk away, to refuse the trade and leave with whatever small amount of dignity he had left. But the alien was already preparing the cage, sliding the tarp away with one swift motion, revealing a woman within a slender figure, bound by glowing chains, her eyes closed but her body shifting slightly, as though sensing his presence. She was different. Her skin was pale, a strange, almost luminescent white, and her features were sharp, her long, dark hair tangled, flowing like ink around her shoulders. The chains that bound her were no ordinary restraints. They seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy, glowing faintly in the dim light of the marketplace. Her lips parted slightly, and a low, guttural sound escaped her throat, something that was neither word nor cry, but a primal noise of frustration. Aaron's mind raced. What was this creature? How could he have been so foolish as to make this trade? But the alien had already seen his hesitation, the gleam in its eyes growing sharper. Take her, human, it said. She is yours now. The canteen is enough. Against his better judgment, Aaron stepped forward, the cage door creaking open with a mechanical whine. The woman no. The Xylothian stirred as the door opened, her eyes flicking to his with a sudden, chilling intensity. Her gaze locked onto him, piercing through him like a knife. He felt a chill run down his spine, and in that moment, he realized the gravity of his mistake. She wasn't just a captive. She was a weapon, a force of nature. The Xylothian's lips curled into a faint, amused smile. Her voice came low and dangerous. You will regret this, human. I am not your companion. You are mine. I will claim you as my prey this night. Aaron stood frozen, his heartbeat thundering in his ears as the Xylothian's gaze bored into him. Her words were no longer a mere threat. They felt like a promise, a dark, inevitable truth that clung to the air between them. The sheer power in her presence was overwhelming. She was no mere captive. She was a force, a creature far beyond anything he had encountered in his travels. The cold shiver running down his spine wasn't from fear, but from the primal awareness that his life, his fate, had just changed in the most unexpected of ways. The alien who had made the trade looked at him with a knowing, twisted smile, and without another word, it turned and walked away, disappearing into the hustle and bustle of the market. Aaron watched it leave, a part of him wanting to run after it, demand answers, but another part, something instinctive, deeper, held him in place. This wasn't a simple trade. This wasn't a transaction of just items or goods. No, he had traded his own fate for something that defied reason. The Xylothian woman remained where she stood, her body still bound by the glowing chains, her eyes never leaving him. As Aaron took a hesitant step forward, she reacted immediately. The air seemed to hum with her presence, the energy around her thickening as her eyes gleamed with the flicker of something ancient, powerful. She was a creature of movement, of predation. Aaron could feel it in the way she looked at him, the way her body tensed, poised to strike if need be. But there was something else there, something he couldn't quite place. Was it amusement? Or something darker? Are you going to release me? She asked, her voice smooth and dangerous. It had a melodic quality, but beneath it was an edge, a razor-sharp warning. Aaron hesitated for a moment, his fingers brushing the canteen still hanging loosely in his hand. His mind raced, but he found himself unable to answer. The alien had said this woman would be his companion. But what did that mean? And why had it felt like a trap? He had no idea, but there was something inside of him that told him this was not an opportunity he could walk away from. Aaron started, but the words got caught in his throat. He had no plan, no idea how to proceed. Should he untie her? Free her? Or would that make things worse? The Xylothian's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something dark and knowing passing through them. You are foolish to think you can control me, human, she said, her voice turning cold, almost mockingly. I am no prize. I am no trophy. I am your predator. And you dash, her lips curled slightly, as if she could already taste his fear. You are my prey. Aaron took a step back, his hand instinctively reaching for the energy blaster holstered at his side. He had no idea what to expect next. Was she just taunting him, trying to manipulate him into some sort of trap? Or was there a deeper, more dangerous intent behind her words? He couldn't fathom it, but a part of him, a part he couldn't ignore, was drawn to her. Despite everything, despite the danger, he felt the pull of her presence. It was like gravity, irresistible and intense. Before he could react, she moved. Her body shifted with inhuman speed, the chains around her glowing brighter as she pressed against the barrier of her cage. The power in her was palpable, and Aaron could feel the pressure around them rising like a storm. The moment she touched the bars of her cage, a crackling surge of energy shot through her chains, and she seemed to pulse with an almost electric force. The chains that bound her vibrated, struggling against their hold, before a final surge of energy shattered the restraints with a loud snap. The sound was deafening. Aaron stood frozen as the woman stepped forward, her eyes locked onto him with an intensity that sent a chill down his spine. She was free now, and he was alone with her in the middle of the bustling market, the onlookers slowly scattering in fear of the sudden chaos. You're going to regret this, she said softly, but her words carried a weight that crushed any thoughts of escape. She moved like a predator now, gliding gracefully toward him, her steps calculated, deliberate. I'm not your companion. I'm not here to serve you, human. I am your predator, and tonight, you will be my prey. Aaron's heart hammered in his chest as he backed away, his pulse quickening. He didn't know what to do. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for his life. He had no idea what kind of being she was, or how powerful she truly was, but the look in her eyes told him everything he needed to know. She wasn't just toying with him. She meant what she said. He reached for his blaster, fingers brushing against its cold, comforting handle, but before he could draw it, the woman lunged at him, her movements so fast that they were nearly a blur. Aaron didn't have time to react. He only saw the flash of her outstretched hand, felt the air move as she struck him hard in the chest, sending him sprawling backward onto the ground. Too slow, she whispered, her voice like a cold breeze against his ear. He struggled to regain his footing, but it was useless. His body felt heavy, his vision swimming with dizziness from the force of her attack. He scrambled back, but the woman was already above him, her intense gaze focused on him with an almost predatory delight. He was in her world now, and the rules were hers to set. She tilted her head, studying him as though savoring the moment. You've made a grave mistake, human. You think you control me, but now you will learn. I don't just belong to you. I will consume you. Chapter 2. The hunt begins. Aaron lay on the ground, his body aching and his breath shallow as he tried to push himself up. His mind raced, but his thoughts were a tangled mess of confusion and fear. He had come to this desolate planet looking for a simple trade, something to quench his thirst, and maybe help him survive until he could fix his ship. But now he had found himself in the middle of something far more dangerous, far more complicated than he could have ever imagined. The Xylothian woman, the predator who had just freed herself from her chains, towered over him. She was no longer the captive creature he had seen moments ago. She was something else entirely. Her posture was regal, predatory, and every movement she made seemed to radiate power. The chains that once bound her now lay scattered on the ground, glowing faintly with residual energy. You don't understand yet, do you? She asked, her voice smooth, almost purring as she watched him try to stand. You were never meant to control me. You were always meant to be my prey. Aaron's hands trembled as he pushed himself up onto his knees. His mind was still foggy from the blow, but something in him, the part that had survived the endless dangers of space, urged him to stay focused. This was no time to panic. He had to think his way out of this. But the Xylothian was not done. She took a step forward, her sharp, calculating eyes never leaving his. Do you feel it, human? She asked. The thrill of the hunt? The excitement of knowing that you are prey, that your life is forfeit? I could kill you now, But where's the fun in that? No, I want you to run. Run from me, and see how long you last. Her words hit him like a slap. Run? He couldn't outrun her. He had barely any time to think, but the adrenaline that coursed through him now gave him the clarity he needed. His feet moved before he could stop them, propelled by the primal need to escape. But as he stumbled to his feet and turned to run, he heard the Xylothian woman laugh, a low, dark sound that echoed in his mind like a death knell. I told you, you're mine. There is nowhere for you to run. The chase had begun. The Xylothian woman recoiled slightly, her movements fast enough to blur. The metal shard Aaron had swung grazed the edge of her skin, but it didn't have the desired effect. Her reflexes were too fast. She was too powerful. She retaliated instantly, her hand shooting out to grab his wrist and twist it violently, forcing him to drop the weapon. The pain shot through his arm like a live wire, and he stumbled to the ground, clutching at his aching wrist. You're learning, human, she said, her voice carrying a mix of amusement and admiration. But this is a game for me, not a fight for survival. You're still in the early stages. You're not meant to win, but you're entertaining me, and for that, I might show you mercy. Aaron struggled against her grip, his mind racing. What was she playing at? Was she toying with him? Or did she truly see him as something more? Something to capture, to conquer? A part of him wanted to scream, to demand answers, but another part, the part that had kept him alive all these years, told him to hold back, to wait for the right moment. He couldn't afford to provoke her further, not when she had the upper hand. Yet, the anger that burned in his chest was hard to contain. But the more he struggled, the more he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a challenge. And somewhere deep inside, Aaron knew he wasn't just a victim in this game. He was part of it. He had been marked, chosen. Whether he liked it or not, he was now her prey, but perhaps, just perhaps, he could turn the tables. He had to think, had to move fast. This wasn't over yet. Chapter 3, The Real Game. The Xylothian woman held him in place, her grip tightening as she looked down at him with an almost sadistic smirk. Aaron's pulse thundered in his ears as he lay beneath her, his wrist still aching from where she had twisted it. She had the upper hand, but he wasn't out of options yet. He wasn't done. Is that all you have, human? She taunted, her voice soft but filled with mocking amusement. Her golden eyes flickered with amusement, watching him with a cold, calculating gaze. I expected more from you. You're faster than you look. But this is where the game begins. Aaron's mind raced. He couldn't afford to let her think she had won. If he gave in now, if he let her break him, it would all be over. She would claim him, her prey. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. He had to fight, even if it was hopeless. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, Aaron twisted his body, using the last of his strength to break free from her grasp. He scrambled backward, his legs burning as he pushed himself up to his feet. The pain in his wrist shot through him, but he couldn't stop. He had to run. He had to survive. The Xylothian didn't chase him immediately. She stood there, watching him, her lips curling in what could almost be considered a smile. You think you can escape? She purred, her voice smooth, the threat of her power hanging in the air like a dense fog. You've made your move, human, but you're not faster than me. You'll see. You'll learn. Aaron stumbled forward, glancing back over his shoulder, his heart racing with fear. He wasn't going to outrun her. He wasn't even sure how he could get out of this alive. But something inside him, something primal, drove him to keep moving, to keep pushing himself. He couldn't stop now. The Xylothian woman took a step forward, her movements fluid and graceful, like a cat stalking its prey. The way she moved, it wasn't just speed. It was control, it was precision. She was toying with him, drawing out the chase for her own amusement. You'll tire, human, she said softly, almost a whisper, but he could hear the mocking tone beneath her words. You cannot escape what is inevitable. You are mine. Your body, your mind, they belong to me now. Aaron's breath came in ragged gasps, but he refused to stop. He pushed through the pain, ignoring the ache in his legs as he sprinted across the alleyways, his shoes slapping against the cracked pavement. His chest burned, and his vision blurred, but he forced himself to keep moving. The Xylothian woman was closing the gap. Aaron could hear her footsteps behind him, the sound growing louder, heavier. He didn't dare look back. He couldn't afford to. The moment he hesitated, the moment he slowed, she would have him. Run, "Human," she said, her voice carrying a dark promise. "Run as far as you can, but it won't change anything." He rounded a corner, barely managing to stay on his feet, his body trembling with exhaustion. He couldn't keep this up much longer. He was running on fumes, his heart racing in his chest, every breath shallow and desperate. He had to find a way to fight back. He had to find something. Anything. And then, as if fate had answered his desperate prayer, he saw a narrow, dark alleyway to his right, lined with stacks of debris and old crates. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. A small opening. Without thinking, he veered toward it, his footsteps pounding against the pavement as he dove into the alley. The Xylothian didn't hesitate. She followed, her speed unmatched. She would catch him, he knew it. But maybe, just maybe, this would give him a few precious seconds to think. "Too slow," she whispered, as if reading his thoughts. Her voice echoed through the alley as she closed in on him. But there was something different now, something in the way she spoke. Aaron's instincts kicked in, his adrenaline surging once more. He had to be ready. He had to make his stand now. He reached down, grabbing the nearest object he could find, a jagged piece of metal, sharp and heavy. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. He gripped it tightly, preparing himself for what was coming next. The Xylothian woman's eyes glinted with amusement as she stepped closer, her smile widening. "You think a mere scrap of metal will save you? How adorable. But it won't help you." Aaron took a deep breath, lifting the metal shard. This was it. This was his chance. He had no choice now but to face her. No more running. "You're right," Aaron said, his voice steady, even as his heart hammered in his chest. "It won't save me, but it will make you work for it." The Xylothian woman didn't flinch. She stood there, a predator circling its prey, as Aaron gripped the jagged metal shard with a trembling hand. He knew he was outmatched, there was no question about that. She was faster, stronger, and far more skilled in combat than he could ever hope to be. Yet, despite the odds, something deep within him refused to give up. Survival instinct. The will to fight. The raw, primal need to make it out of this alive. He wasn't going to just lie down and die. Not like this. Her smile never wavered as she watched him, almost as if she was testing him, gauging his resolve. "You're still holding on to that scrap?" she mocked, her voice smooth and laced with amusement. "You think that will make any difference? I could end this in a heartbeat." But Aaron didn't drop the shard. He wouldn't. Instead, he raised it higher, the metal glinting in the dim light of the alley. "Maybe," he said, his voice low, "but I'm not just going to give up." In a flash, she lunged at him, her movement so fast it was like a blur. Aaron barely had time to react as she reached out to grab him, her fingers moving to twist his wrist. The metal shard slipped from his hand as her grip tightened, the pressure making his muscles scream in protest. She lifted him off the ground with little effort, holding him there as though he weighed nothing. Her strength was like nothing he had ever encountered. The Xylothian was more than just fast. She was a force, an apex predator, and Aaron was nothing more than a helpless animal in her grasp. "You're not just prey to me, human," she said, her voice low and controlled. "You will be part of the hunt. I will make sure you experience every moment of it." Aaron's mind raced. He couldn't let her win. He couldn't let her turn this into something worse. The panic had taken hold of him again, but he refused to let it control him. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, he threw his body forward, using his weight to jerk out of her grasp just long enough to scramble to his feet. His heart was a thunderous beat in his chest, but he managed to stumble backward, just out of reach of her iron grip. He turned and ran again, but the Xylothian was already on him. He could hear her footsteps closing in, hear the crackling of energy in the air as her power surged. She was playing with him, testing his endurance, making him feel the futility of trying to escape. She wasn't just a predator, she was a game hunter, enjoying the chase. But then, just as his legs burned with exhaustion, something in Aaron snapped. The realization hit him like a jolt of electricity. He couldn't run forever. He couldn't outlast her. His only chance was to turn the tables, to face her and fight back. Aaron's eyes scanned his surroundings, looking for anything to use. And that's when he saw it, a narrow, dark alleyway to his right, lined with stacks of debris and old crates. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. A small opening. Without thinking, he veered toward it, his footsteps pounding against the cracked pavement as he dove into the alley. The The Xylothian didn't hesitate. She followed, her speed unmatched. She would catch him, he knew it. But maybe, just maybe, this would give him a few precious seconds to think. Too slow, she whispered, as if reading his thoughts. Her voice echoed through the alley as she closed in on him. But there was something different now, something in the way she spoke. Aaron's instincts kicked in, his adrenaline surging once more. He had to be ready. He had to make his stand now. He reached down, grabbing the nearest object he could find, a jagged piece of metal, sharp and heavy. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. He gripped it tightly, preparing himself for what was coming next. The Xylothian woman halted just a few feet away, her eyes locked onto him with an amused glint. You think a mere scrap of metal will save you? How adorable. But it won't help you. Aaron took a deep breath, lifting the metal shard. This was it. This was his chance. He had no choice now but to face her. No more running. You're right, Aaron said, his voice steady, even as his heart hammered in his chest. It won't save me, but it will make you work for it. Chapter 4. The End of the Hunt. The Xylothian woman stood motionless for a moment, her eyes narrowing, a shift occurring within her gaze. It was subtle, but Aaron noticed it. The predator had stopped being amused. The hunt was over, at least for her. What began as a cruel game of cat and mouse had become something else. Something dangerous and unpredictable. You truly are different, she murmured, more to herself than to him. Her voice softened, the edge of arrogance slipping away. She was no longer just a creature of instinct and hunger. Something in her had changed. And Aaron, despite the exhaustion in his body, felt something shift within him as well. You're not like the others, she continued, this time meeting his eyes with an intensity that held his gaze. The others would have begged, would have run until their legs gave out. But not you. You fight until the very end. Aaron didn't know what to say. He wasn't even sure if he could stand much longer. His body felt heavy, his muscles sore and worn from the chase, but he kept his stance. He wasn't going to let her win, not in the way she had wanted. For the first time, the Xylothian dropped her posture of predation, her body still and contemplative. I've never met anyone like you, she said quietly. I've hunted many, but none have been so relentless. Her gaze softened, just a fraction, but it was enough for Aaron to catch it. The silence stretched between them, and for a moment, it seemed as though time had slowed, the world outside of the alley ceasing to exist. Then, she took a slow step back, her body uncoiling with the grace of a predator stepping out of the hunt. You're not mine to claim, she said, her voice now almost gentle. Aaron lowered the metal shard slowly, unsure of what was happening, but feeling the tension leave his body as she stepped back. What do you mean? He asked, his voice raspy from the effort of the chase. The Xylothian gave him a long look, and in that look, there was a strange respect, a shift in the dynamic between them. I'll leave you to your life, human. This hunt is over. But know this, you have earned something few ever do. A place in the wilds of the hunt. I will remember you. With that, she turned, her form dissolving into the shadows with a fluid grace, her presence fading as quickly as it had come. Aaron stood in the alley, breathing heavily, his pulse slowly returning to a normal rhythm, though his mind was still racing. What had just happened? Was it over? Had he truly survived the hunt? The answer, as he soon realized, was that it wasn't just about surviving the Xylothian woman's hunt. It was about what came next. He had earned his place in this strange new world, a world where survival meant more than just fighting, where the game was still to be played. But for now, Aaron Hawke was alive. And that was enough.